Shalom. Shalom, my brothers and sisters. If you are one who seek to do the will of the Almighty Father, Yahuah, I consider you my brothers and sisters. My name is Symmanayah, for those who are tuning in for the first time. Welcome to Scripture Encounters. It is a second leg of a group series called End Time Rulings. This is the third installment of Scripture Encounters. It is entitled Shiphrah Puah. Shiphrah Puah. My brothers and sisters, if you're tuning in for the first time, Scriptures Encounters is a growing playlist where I will go through each book of the Scriptures and present something that may not be familiar to you or something that is not widely spoken of in detail. It is my intent, as I believe I am directed, as I am compelled by the Spirit of Yahusha, it is my intent to present something that will contribute to your day-to-day lives now, as well as mine. Again, my name is Symmanayah, and welcome. Let me begin. This third installment of Scripture Encounters, as I mentioned, is entitled Shiphrah Puah. And it is my first review, or should I say contribution, of something from the book of Exodus. So we're going through I'm going to share something from the book of Exodus. And then the next installment, I'll move to the next book of the Scriptures. In this particular case, Exodus chapter 1, verses 15 through 21. They read as follows. Then the sovereign of Yisrael spoke to the Hebrew midwives, of whom the name of one was Shiphrah, and the name of the other was Puah. And he said, when you deliver the Hebrew women and see them on the birth stool, if it is a son, then you shall put him to death. But if it's a daughter, then she shall live. But the midwives feared the Almighty One and did not do as the sovereign of Mitzrayim commanded. Some may say king, as the king commanded. And they kept the male children alive. So the sovereign of Mitzrayim, and Mitzrayim is another name for Egypt if you have a different version. So the sovereign, and king is another name for sovereign. So the sovereign of Mitzrayim called for the midwives and said to them, why have you done this and kept the male children alive? Remember, I read in 17, but the midwives feared the Almighty One and did not do as the sovereign commanded, and they kept the male children alive. So they were questioned. And the midwives, verse 19, said to Pharaoh, because the Hebrew women are not like the Mitzrite women, for they are lively and give birth before the midwives come to them. So the Almighty One was good to the midwives, and the people increased and became very numerous. And it came to be, because the midwives feared the Almighty One, that he provided households for them. That was Exodus chapter 1, verses 15 through 21. My brothers and sisters, let us reflect on this passage for a moment. I'm aware that in Exodus 1:22, Pharaoh still ordered the deaths of the sons of Yashar'al in spite of what they did. But Pharaoh's orders did not prevent the birth of Moses, or as some may say, Moshe or Musha, depending on what version and whom you are speaking to. No, he still wanted them dead. And I say to you, my brothers and sisters, because of these two sisters' bravery, Moses was born as part of the plan. He was born as a result of the actions of these two midwives, who were, remember, ordered to kill the sons of Hebrews. But they disregarded that. They didn't pay Pharaoh any mind, not knowing really what the consequences would be. They didn't know. And what we see here, that the midwives feared the Most High. Feared the Most High more more than they did Pharaoh. How many of us fear the Most High more than our government leaders, more than any king or sovereign? How many of us will take that position? Could this be akin to a demonstration way before it was even written, where we should not worry about who can destroy the body, but worry about he who can take the soul and condemn the soul or give life to the soul? If we look closely at Exodus 1:17, we see the midwives feared the Almighty One Yahuah more than they did the king. While confronted with the king regarding their disobedience to him, these midwives gave their response, not knowing what the outcome would be. And what ended up happening, the Most High Father provided households for them. I ask you, who is able to see that great is he who is in us, the Almighty Yahuah, than any other? Who is able to discern how this connects with the following? And keep in mind these two names, Shiphrah and Puah. Without them, Moses may have not been born. Keep that in mind, my brothers and sisters. Keep that in mind as you ponder the scriptures that I've presented. And I'm backtracking just in case some may have missed it. Backtracking so you can see the verses. I'm placing them on the screen so that you are able to see them. Exodus chapter 1. Verses 15. 1:15 through 21. Let me press forward as to not confuse anyone where I'm at, or should I say where I'm headed. You know, today, my brothers and sisters, today we're at a time where we're facing some phenomenal challenges, to say the least. We will have to make some tough decisions. As I mentioned about how many of us will fear the Most High more than what man can do, I wanted to bring to light, or should I say, I want to visit Matthew 10:28. It reads, "And do not fear those who kill the body, but are able to kill the being, but rather fear him who is able to destroy both being and body in hell." Luke 12:4 says, "But I say to you, my friends, do not be afraid of those who kill the body, and after that are unable to do anything more." In Luke 12:5, "But I shall show you whom you shall fear. Fear the one who, after killing, possesses authority to cast into hell. Yea, I say unto you, fear him." I cannot stress enough how end times are here, and we will face some of the most challenging times of our lives in the coming days. I cannot stress the importance of enough regarding how critical it is for us to grow in understanding that discernment is indeed when the Spirit of Yahuah, sent in Yahusha's name, reveals things to us, make things known to us, teach us, comfort us, and provide us the guidance that we need. His living presence is before us. Many of us are all too familiar with Moses. We're even familiar with Aaron. But I want to ask you, start asking some questions. Ask anyone, do they know who Shiphrah or Puah is? Ask anyone who is familiar with the story of Moses that if Shiphrah and Puah would have killed all the sons of Hebrews, had Moses would have lived? So these two women, these two ladies, these two midwives were like guards of the womb, so to speak. In other words, or monitors of the womb, monitoring the wombs of the pregnant women ready to give birth. And they were empowered by Pharaoh to kill the sons. But they knew that there was a greater sovereign, there was a greater king, a greater master than Pharaoh, and that was Yahuah, the Almighty Father. And they responded as they were guided. Why am I talking about Shiphrah and Puah? Because most people won't even know those names. If someone would have asked me prior to reading it again, I wouldn't have kept them in mind. So I want to bring it to light because it's important. Sometimes when we're doing things as we believe are set apart as directed by the Most High, we may not get recognition. You may think no one is recognizing you. But that doesn't stop what the Almighty Father has for you or me. Shiphrah and Puah were in the plan of the Most High. They were the midwives that allowed many Hebrew sons to live by disobeying Pharaoh. Do I sound redundant? Indeed I do, because I just want you to understand, oftentimes we don't know what the outcome would be, but we must take a stand, and we will find that occurring. Some will receive favor in such a way that it will put a smile on your face, and some of us may find that that favor received may not be physically pleasant, but the reward is yet to come. Remember Stephen. Stephen was a follower of the Most High. And if you remember Stephen, he was stoned to death, killed. And as he was killed, he prayed for those who brought him harm. He prayed that the Almighty Father, forgive them. Forgive those who were causing much harm. So I say to you, my brothers and sisters, as end times get intense, will we be able to pray? Will we be able to ask for forgiveness to those who may do us harm? Sometimes the favor received from the Most High is not pleasant at the time, but know this, the final outcome, there's a reward when we go before the Father. Let me share the following with you. Acts 7th chapter, verses 51 through 60. 7th chapter, verses 51 through 60. And they read as follows. And I just have the address to what I'm reading. I didn't post the actual wording, so I will read it. Starting with Acts 7 chapter verses 51 through 60. It reads, "You stiff-necked and uncircumcised in heart and ears, you always resist the set-apart spirit as your fathers did. You also do. Which of the prophets did your fathers not persecute? And they killed those who before announced the coming of the righteous one, of whom you now have become the betrayers and murderers, who received the Torah as it was ordained by messengers, but did not watch over it. And hearing this day were cut to the hearts and gnashed the teeth at them. But he, being filled with the set-apart spirit, looked steadily into heaven and saw the esteem of the Almighty One, and Yahusha standing at the right hand of the Almighty One. And he said, Look, I see the heavens open and the Son of Adam standing at the right hand of the Almighty One. And crying with a loud voice, they stopped their ears and rushed upon him with one mind, threw him out of the city and stoned him. And the witnesses laid down their garments at the feet of a young man named Shaul. And they were stoning Stephen as he was calling, saying, Master Yahusha, receive my spirit. And kneeling down, he cried out with a loud voice, Master, do not hold this sin against them. And having said this, he fell asleep. Will we have the strength to cry out to our Father? Will we have the strength to call to Yahushua Mashiach in the midst of the pain that some of us may face as end times become intense? Let us begin to discuss that when we stand for what is set apart, the outcome could be one or the other. It could be something that could be very pleasant during this physical lifetime, and it could be something that could be painful, but pleasant in the end. Again, this title, this segment of scriptures was to bring light to Shiphrah and Puah, individuals who took a risk and helped preserve the lives of the sons of Hebrews. And I brought up Stephen to let you know not all will receive the outcome. The outcome for Shiphrah and Puah was that, one, their names were written in the scriptures. So throughout the years, if we wanted to take a moment and pay attention, these two women played a significant role in the birth of Moshe, or Moses. These played a significant role in the redemption of Yashar'al out of bondage when they left Egypt. These played a significant role to all the descendants of Yashar'al. Let me read another verse. Matthew 5:12 reads, "Rejoice and be glad, because your reward in the heavens is great. For in this way they persecuted the prophets who were before you." And then I like to read Revelations 22:12 through 14. Revelations 22:12 through 14. And it reads, "And see, I am coming speedily. My reward is with me to give to each according to his work." Notice he said, "My reward is with me to give to each according to his work." Going on to the 13th verse. "I am the Aleph and the Tav, the beginning and the end, the first and the last." Verse 14. "Blessed are those doing his commands, so that the authority shall be theirs unto the tree of life, and to enter through the gates into the city." I submit to you, my brothers and sisters, when it talks about doing his commands, it's not just talking about the 10 Commandments, and it's not just talking about laws and statutes. It's talking about his guidance, his living guidance as well. How then do you think Yashar'al could move about? How then can you say we're refined and guided and directed? How then can we describe the actions and functions of leaders unless there was a set apart spirit guiding and giving instructions and commands? So there are living commands, there are living instructions, orders that come, some of which we are yet to find out or discover. But they will align themselves with Scripture. They will line up to what is called, they'll line up to Scriptures and what we are called to do in set apartness, my brothers and sisters. Pray on these matters. There will be individuals among us who will find themselves making decisions to follow the living presence of the Yahuah Spirit, sent in Yahusha's name versus government leaders. And just as our sisters Shiphrah and Puah disregarded Pharaoh and they made a contribution to Yashar'al during their time, so will we find ourselves facing tasks, facing decisions, completing actions that are ordered of us. Let us begin to discuss individuals that may not be common among us, individuals that are written in scriptures that made a significant impact. And I say this, and keep in mind, there are a lot of people sometimes want to downplay the woman, the helpmate, the sister. Let us realize the Most High will use a sister, a brother, a child, or an adult. And I say often, we're greater than the donkey. When he opened the mouths of a donkey, and we're greater than the stones. The time is now to begin to discern when the Spirit of Yahuah is working in us, through us. The time is now to recognize that there are specific tasks that many may not see as glamorous or may not even give much thought to. The tasks of Shiphrah and Puah were great. I will conclude here and ask that you pray on these words. Seek to discern whether or not these words have relevance to the specific task you find yourself doing today or not. As for me and my house, I believe it was beneficial to recognize these two women who were, as I stated, monitors of the womb of pregnant women, so to speak. They were midwives, and they chose who they would follow, who they would fear, whom they would obey, not knowing what the outcome would be. Are you ready to face tough decisions? They are coming, my brothers and sisters. And do not discourage by others. Let us seek to continue to pursue obedience no matter whether we think we're getting recognized or not. Do not get discouraged by others. Let us seek to continue. Each of us has specific tasks ahead of us. And yes, a brother or sister should be able to discern whether they are set apart or not. We should be able to monitor and guide and testify whether the words and the actions we see of one another are indeed set apart. Know this: every task, every work, every duty of the set apart children of Yahuah has significance. It has significance. Every duty has significance. Until next time, my brothers and sisters, continue to be encouraged. The next segment of Scripture Encounters, I will present something from the book of Leviticus. Remember, in each segment of Scripture Encounters, I will present something from a different book as I believe I am directed, as I believe I am compelled by the Spirit of Yahuah, sent in Yahusha's name. Let these words find the ears they are designed to locate, and let these words be confirmed to be set apart. I pray that you continually encourage. Until next time, my brothers and sisters, shalom, shalom, shalom.